the Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And you're stinky.
Hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys, just some boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. I am Patrick Baskwell, and I say Nole Gradale to all my friends.
And I'm John Gilardi, and I say good Yule to all my friends and foes.
Ooh, foes too. Oh,
yeah, I did something
look at that.
there. Yeah,
you did something there for sure.
So we watched a little foreign film, Joyeux Noel. How do you say it?
Joyeux Noel.
Joyeux Noel.
I think it's Joyeux.
Clearly,
I took
French
4
is
years
neither-
of French. I took 4 years of French.
Yeah,
But
I took
like that being said,
2 years of French. Went to France for a month.
I've never been
it
to
didn't
France.
help.
I would like to go to France.
France is incredible.
It does. Like I will say, going to another country, helps you understand. Like because I went to Germany for a little while, and it's like, oh, I understand a little bit more the written language, and like, I don't know. It also helps you understand like
a lot
the tone of people have.
Yeah. Especially the more similar they are, I think you pick up more on the nuances and the differences in culture than a starkly different culture. I think you get a lot from a starkly different culture, don't get me wrong. But I think there's enough relatability there where you can really pick up on it. Which is honestly kind of the point of this movie, is just what I said.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to do that.
Look at that.
But
No, you did. Hey, everything is on purpose here, bud.
yeah, France is
Everything
cool.
leads to everything else. So
But
we
yeah.
went. So we watched Joyeux Noel. Joyeux Noel. See, I think that a lot of times it's like other stuff in other languages. It like if you Joyeux Noel, and it's like me just saying it like Patrick would say it. But if I'm doing like a Joyeux Noel, maybe it makes maybe
Well, that's a
it's
whole
like,
other
oh, yeah.
thing. You do you have those friends who have like 2% Italian in them, and they like go to an Italian restaurant? Like, yeah, I'll have the mozzarella. It's like
Mozzarella.
Don't do that. Don't do that. It's like if it's your native language and you're jumping in and out of it, that's fine. But like
That's a fucking dad thing.
But if you're like
again,
Carl Smothers of Valley Folk, Wisconsin, don't do that.
yeah, exactly.
Just don't do that.
Don't do that. Hey, just because
even if
your last
you're-
name's Esperanza,
even
your
if you're-
the family has been in Wisconsin for 5 decades. Hold on to it, but I don't know.
You're already not even saying
all right,
your last
and-
name right, probably. Esperanza.
Yeah,
God.
Esperanza.
I mean,
Like Blanco, Texas.
Yeah, God. Or Topsail, which it's like that's like the ultimate like okay, that doesn't necessarily hit close to home, but that's like a town close to us. And it's like it's Topsail. That's what it is. But people be like it says Topsail. It's like no, it's Topsail.
That's Topsail.
But I don't
Or like
budge.
Kerr.
Yeah, Kerr. What is it?
Carr.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
don't budge
Carr Avenue.
on my name because I've run into people who say Gilardi and they tell me that's right, and I'm just like, it's right to you. Obviously, I'm not gonna take that from you, but you are wrong. Like it is Gilardi. It is a very Italian
Well, I get
name,
fucking
and
I
it
get
is-
fucking weird shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Basque.
I get Basco. I used to get Basquile, and it's like, where are you getting that? Like, I'm not mad, but like, where are you getting that?
What vibes am I
Basquile?
giving off?
Weird. Baskel. Pasquale.
Pasquale.
So
Hey.
many.
Well,
Hey.
so we watched Joyeux Noel, a French foreign film from France. It's not foreign in France. They'd be really mad about that. And it's a World War I story about 3 perspectives: the Scots, the French, and the German. They call them Prussians, so maybe they're from Prussia, East Prussia region. I think
isn't. Well, I think that was sort of like that's like a.
Well, that's a
we could
nod
get
to
into
their
the weird
warrior
history
culture.
of that.
So it's hard to.
Yeah,
It's a weird.
I think
thing.
because Germany, and again, I know that Germany just has such a interesting history because I'm pretty sure they were Prussia up until, and they weren't like incorporated as Germany until
Well, I know
like
Prussia.
relatively late.
Modern day Prussia is held essentially by the Russians. And like so there's
Is
like
it really?
there's like Russian land in the middle of like main Europe, I guess.
Huh. I thought that I don't know, because the whole it's a very interesting history, like the whole like World War One, like as well, and we've talked about this before a little bit with 1917, where it's just like it's a fucking weird like internal thing, and like how the tactics didn't match up yet with the technology. But also the whole reason like the thing got started is because of like treaties and stuff. And it really is like insane how complicated it is, because the king or the Kaiser Wilhelm was like fucking cousins or brothers or sisters with the King of England, and it was like
Kaiser
sort
Wilhelm.
of like a a familial struggle as well, that like all these fucking millions of people were dying for.
Well, it's also
And
a
then-
deeper layer too, because Wilhelm, he had like, I don't know, he had some sickness when he was a child, and so his arm was weak, and so he always hit his arm. So he had like a definitely like a complex to prove himself. So he had this cousin rivalry, and so he took it to the mass scale with war. And he was obviously German, very warrior culture, and that kind of whole military vibe they got going on there. So then, you just have that all compounded, and this was their second war, because they already had the war in the 1870s. Germany and France were fucking throwing haymakers for almost 100 years, like 60, 70 years there.
But they're right close to each other. They've been fucking battling it out.
Yeah,
I'm
all
gonna
for,
look up Germany, because I know how fucking confusing it is.
All for Alsace
it was-
Lorraine. But yeah, I'm looking at it, and that like when you think Prussia, like that was main Germany, but there was a section on the Baltic. Was that? Is that the Baltic? In the South Baltic Sea, like a little like vestige, and that's held by Russia today, which is interesting.
All right, so it was 1815 was Germany was first confederated as because it was like Austria and those are still like essential, and then it wasn't, I don't think, until like, yeah, I'm looking at the thing right now just because I like have like bits and pieces of information, and I remember like from going to Germany, they're all about their history, all parts of it. They're like, because that was one of the things that when I went to Berlin, and they were like fucking like bullet holes like left over in like the library and the facade of the library, and they're like they left up a bunch of stuff like remnants of the World War II and like the invasion of them losing Berlin and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, guys, we didn't do good, okay? But this is part of it. This is part, like, it was very, like, nice to see that. It was like...
Yeah, I think that like elusive, like, Nazi experiment fantasy thing has passed its prime, let it, in terms of, I think mostly done over in Indiana Jones movies, most famously.
Well, but they're the one who's they're the one who set it up.
Yeah,
they set up the trope.
Yeah, and then even like Dead
say.
Snow, that zombie movie, that recent
movie. I think Overlord did
Overlord,
it.
Yep.
Overlord did it best, or not did it best, but they were like, all right, that's it. This is as far as we can go with this.
Wolfenstein. So
I don't know anything about that. Hey, why do the officers only have pistols if everybody else gets to have a rifle? Is a pistol better?
I think that's a leftover from the earlier kind of military traditions. I don't think so, like American Civil War. They have a sword and a pistol, and they're leading the men, forming the line, kind of stewarding the forces, focusing on that rather than combat. So I think that's why. Just that's left over.
Okay. All right, so we talked about Joyeux Noel. We've talked about how we're talking about it in accents. We've talked about Nazi stuff. We talked about Germany. We're going to do a whole separate podcast just on Germany, just a history of it and the Confederation of the Prussian states.
I did get a book.
You know,
it's a short history of all of Germany. It's like a little
no.
book.
I don't want to. No, it's
back.
us. We're doing a podcast on just Germany and the Prussian states. And it decided, John, we've already got ad people lined up for it.
Okay.
It's Kinder Egg and Lidl.
Ooh.
You know.
I like it.
Yeah.
And Aldi.
They're sponsoring. And Aldi.
But yeah, so we watched Joyeux Noel. What's this movie about? It's a World War I movie.
What is this?
It's 1914, the earlier stages of the war. And there's two. So
Very early stages of the war.
You have the Scots, you have the Germans, you have the French, and obviously the French and Scots are on the same side fighting the Germans. And it's Christmas Eve, and after some fighting, some fraternization happens. Starts with music across the trenches, and then they kind of come out, and they mix and mingle based on true stories, and it kind of caused them to question a lot of things. Superiors and the bigwigs, the fat guys in the ivory towers, yelling at them that this is unacceptable and all these different things.
How dare you?
So
How dare you enjoy your time out there at war?
So it's a pretty good anti-war piece in terms of that setup, because it has the man on the ground to the guy in the high castle, but it also has the men on the ground amongst each other, finding that they have more in common than their superiors, who are a fellow German or a fellow Frenchman or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the film. I mean, that's the movie, and that doesn't spoil it at all. Like, no need to give out a spoiler warning, because that's what the movie's about. Go watch it.
That's what it's about. Yeah. I mean, very, very early on. It's like, they do such a good job of balancing, like, hey, here's the horrors of war. And then also being like, hey, fucking human beings, right? Like, we love each other.
Yeah.
Like, we love it when we get together and we, like, can do kisses and stuff. And, like, hey, look, here's some champagne.
That's Scott bro loves kissing his bro.
He does love kissing his bro.
And then, like, when they have the first fraternization, and he's just, like, mounting him, and the German dude comes over and he's like, hey, do you want some, I'm not into God, because the rest of everyone's, like, doing a little service. He's like, I'm not into God. You want to drink with me? And he gets up and just stares at him. And the German dude's like, okay, weirdo.
Like, bad vibes, bad vibes, bad vibes.
Go back to your corpse, I guess.
I get it, bud. Well, and it's like, it is very much like, hey, his brother just died. Give him a break. But it is also like, hey, bud.
His story isn't as sympathetic as it should be, which is maybe come out guns blazing is the film's weakest point, maybe? Is that
okay? Because
it tries so hard to make that impactful. And
I think part of it is his performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing against the actor, where it's like the performance is just like, all right.
Well, he's like acting for the stage, and everyone's acting for the screen. I feel. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but it's that kind of vibe. Like his acting is totally different from the tone of the movie, and that character also has no mesh with anyone else. Even the pastor, who he should. They have a few scenes together, but there doesn't feel like there's any meshing there between them. So he feels super disconnected and cold, which I guess is what he's doing. He hates the world. Everything was taken from him, so I get that. But filmically, there's also no, right.
and I think maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of it too, because there's no, like I was just gonna say, there's no conclusion with that character.
He just kills the French orderly. That's it. It's like, and like the last time we see him, he does it, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, I'm a hard motherfucker." And then we learned that he killed the orderly who's just trying to go see his mom, dressed as a German. And that's it. We don't see him again. There's no moment of like, that's a perfect opportunity for him to maybe hate himself.
Well, he needs to write his mom and be like, he needs to, because they have all those things where he's lying to his mom constantly, like right from the beginning.
That's true too. That's not even resolved.
And it's like, I just feel like that's the way. It's like, Mom, this fucking sucks. My brother's dead. Your son is dead. I'm going to try and make it the best I can. Like I just think that there's an opportunity for, because again, maybe that's, and that's was like, maybe that's part of it, where it's like there is no conclusion because this war went on for 3-4 more years almost, and it's like, yeah, it's fucked up because I thought of, like, you go and you look and you're like, oh, 1939 to 1945, that was 6 years of war, and man, that's not that long compared to whatever, or like this is 1914 to 1918, and it was like, that's just 4 years of war. But then like looking at this stuff and I'm thinking about it, and as we've been in COVID, from 2020, from March 11th, 2020 to now still, where, I'm getting boosters, wearing masks, going in places, and like still having COVID scares and spending 4 hours in a medac. And it feels like it's been like 3 years. Like, honestly, like it both feels like it was just March 11th, 2020, and it feels like it was also like it's been much longer than that. Like I've been living this way, and I'm 30. I've got a whole life, so I can only imagine how 4 years of total war, living on the edge, and like in any of these places where the war was happening, like in France or in Germany, in either of them, where it's just like it's happening, and it's like day by day, you're living on the edge of that, and it's like for 4 years of total war. Whew.
I mean, there's like a lot of people
for 6 years of total war.
I mean, we're definitely spoiled today, and not to downplay COVID or any struggle people have, but like, I think there's a tendency for there's like a narcissism in the time we live in, that we live in hard times. I think
also
it's
in
been,
America too.
It's amassed as unprecedented times, and
Yeah.
all these things. And it's like, no, this isn't anything unique. It's been way worse here, and it's been way worse other places, and it's way worse today in other places. And not to put anyone's hardship aside. I mean, I'm very lucky and very privileged myself, so it's, maybe it's easy for me to say that. But like in terms of like the zeitgeist of Twitter, for example, where a lot of these people are also in the same boat as me, it's just like, come on, chill out. We're getting through this, but keep it in perspective, I guess. I don't know.
I hear you.
I don't know. I'm sounding very dismissive.
Like,
I'm not, but maybe I am. I don't know. But that's to say, like, that's just crazy. And can you imagine? I saw this somewhere, but I have had the thought before. It's not a very original thought. But there's people who grew up in World War I, France and Germany, particularly in Germany, and then, they went through the crazy depression, and then World War II happened, the rise and fall, that whiplash, and that total war that really fucked everything. And then if you're lucky enough to be in East Germany, then you're in the like Soviet and communist rule and gray and boredom and
sheesh.
What are your rights, And then if you make it to 1989, 1990, then you get that taste of a better life. And like, geez, like someone in East Germany who stuck it out and lived through all that, are they happy? Were they happy? Like what did they go through? What is the psychological thing? Like there's like this notion that mental health is this new thing, I guess, or it's like the awareness of it is new. But I think like humans have not changed biologically in the last 50 years. Our set of circumstances have not changed. Our pressures have not changed at their core. So like, just can you imagine that what that person is like, what they've went through?
Oh my gosh.
And there's things and that goes back as long as humans have been a thing. But that's a particular one with East Germans. Like, geez, I'm sorry.
You guys went through it.
Yeah.
Like if you were a child in, like, let's say you were born in 1912. You went through the whole thing. You were maybe mid World War I. You were like sort of conscious to be able to be like, whoa, mom and dad have been freaked out for a while, or dad's been gone, whatever it is. It's like, oof, Stuff has been crazy for a while.
You're just
And then
existing in
maybe-
paranoia, or maybe you don't have your dad, because he died on the front or something. I don't know.
And then by the time, and then it's like, and then it goes hard, and then we've got the depression. Damn, that is crazy. Because then by the time that you're your parents' age again, here we are in another world war. Now you know what to do.
Well, either you become the fanatic, or you get pulled along with a fanaticism, or you stand your ground and are at the risk of dying and losing. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to like sympathize with the whole German thing, but there's definitely a very tough story in there for a set
But I
of
think
people.
that there was, and again, I'm not a fucking studier of World War II stuff, but I'm not an expert on it, is what I should say. But like, I'm pretty sure sort of the dividing lines of the Nazi stuff was like the people who were either young enough to have felt the effects of World War One, like on the German people. They were like, well, fuck yeah, I'm gonna be a Nazi. And then the people who were like sort of like upper class enough to have also felt the effects and be like, we should be better.
Yeah.
Whereas like it was like kind of the middle ground people were like, hey, I love Germany. I don't know about like kind of like how some of the like the boat Republicans are, where they're like, I'm gonna vote for Trump because that's my party and like it kind of aligns more with my ideals, but I don't love that dude,
Yeah.
So anyway, this movie, one of my favorite scenes, I don't know, this movie is sort of like littered with like really fun scenes,
And good moments.
but one of my favorite scenes is whenever Diane Kruger is waiting outside and she's reading her book and she goes and she talks to like the general guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Diane Kruger, I don't give a shit about getting your fucking lover out to do some singing with you. I don't think that it makes sense. It doesn't feel good for my war effort." And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of figured that you would say that." So I just went to the prince. I went to the crown prince, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, you could definitely do some singing stuff. I love that idea." And the general's just like, "All right, well, okay."
Even with the
But
German
then
leader.
also the scene right before that, like leading into that, of them doing the logistics to send Christmas trees out.
Yeah.
Which was something that they did for sure. Like actually,
I mean, that's just classic like bureaucratic bullshit. Is that, or just like that, like kind of like posh, old timey aristocrat, like, oh fuck you, that's too much effort. Meanwhile, is like scheming a logistical feat of moving 200,000 Christmas trees along the front line. Obviously, maybe one's more scalable, or maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. Like, how many entertainers can you get to the front? And that's the logistics of people and not trees. And I don't know.
I mean, I guess with people, you have to feed them, you have to lodge them. A tree, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
You
that's
just,
true.
I mean, you do have to ship it out there, but you don't have to lodge it. You don't have to make sure that it doesn't die, because as long as it gets there, it can die.
Yeah,
But if a person gets there and then dies, we fucked up a little bit.
yeah. I think not the more we talk, but as I'm like sitting here thinking, I think there is a shortcoming with kind of the resolutions of their stories. I think because we're being shown how tough this is, and I think I say this because the performances like going over the top in the beginning, like the anxiety of everyone is so good. It like,
Yeah.
I think it makes some other films look kind of cavalier in a sense. In 1917 does a decent job, but it doesn't feel dirty enough in 1917, so it feels disconnected. Like it's super clean. Maybe
because they needed it to be for a one shot.
Yeah, which makes sense. But it like this, the containedness of this, and you can see that they have 20 soldiers and they're trying to shoot it as if there's hundreds or whatever, on the battle.
Yeah.
But that's all to say that like the performance is really good. They get you in there, and then so you're invested in them. You're invested in like the psyche and the relation of like how. Of course, as you see yourself through these characters in a film, you kind of try to put yourself in that place or whatever. And so then it's interesting. I want to, because they set such a cool piece, a cool board of, they humanize them. They show them going to fight. They show them getting along. They show them kind of collaborating a little bit longer. And then it just falls off, because then you get the repercussions. And obviously, we don't want to see a movie where the Germans go to Russia and in a penal battalion and get killed, where we don't want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't even know what the potential resolution is for the Frenchmen and the Scots after watching this yesterday. I can't even recall that. So it's like the ending isn't strong. Okay, the singer and Diane Kruger.
But that's part of what it is.
They become prisoners, and yeah, I guess it doesn't need a nice bow, but it's just so open-ended. It's too
well. I mean,
they
can't finish. It's the beginning of World War One. They can't finish it, bud.
Yeah,
I mean, I hear you. I hear you.
And I think you're exactly right there. But I don't think they. I mean, I guess they don't know that. But as viewers, maybe we do know that, or maybe we have that dramatic irony or that ability of hindsight. And so,
well,
I think it'd be an effective little gimmick to throw in there is that they have 3 more years of this, and the chance that any of them make it through alive or unscathed is very low. And that's dramatic and that's sad, and that gets rid of all hope, and I think that's the issue is the movie doesn't end with dread or hope or hopelessness. It doesn't really end with any tone, I think is maybe my issue. And I haven't seen it as much as you, because you have a whole family tradition with this. With watching it annually.
It somehow became a family tradition where we watch it Christmas Eve, and I'm not sure where it came from. I don't remember. It's just something we do now. I don't know, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure. But I would say that's like your sort of like critique of it is like, I think that there's enough sort of dread of it. Like there's like both the dread and like I think too, like, I don't know. The ending is always hard because we've made our point and it's like, hey, listen, Christmas is in our hearts and these men are fucking doing some horrible shit and trying to make it the best because you know what? At the end of the day, they're still human. They're still trying to make it. And that's like sort of the vibe. And there's just not like a real good, clean way to both be like, hey, humanity is good, but sometimes it's awful. But even when humanity is awful, in a big way, in a little way, humanity is good.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like sort of like, it's such a weird, like, ooh, hey, war sucks, okay?
I guess like now that the more you're talking about, it is flashing back. Like there is a sense of helplessness and hope in the face of that with the Germans on the train singing as they go away. Yeah. And then
especially with the Germans on the train.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think that is so well. I think their story is the most well told, and obviously, I think the Scots are tertiary, just whatever. It's a French movie, so the French are obviously going to get their thing. And then for some reason, they gave the Germans a very good story, presence. But I think the Germans had the most fulfilling because it felt it was about them, the men.
Yeah.
And the French was about the leader. You really got him. You got his orderly, but that was really a leadership kind of aura. Having that kind of guy. And that's fine. I think that was good to stratify that. But it was just an interesting way to do that. And I think maybe that's why it felt inconsistent to me, even if it was consistent. It's just, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm putting more thought in this than I should, but I do like the film.
No. Fucking beat it up, dude. Kick it while it's down.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, I think the Frenchman saying, I have a son, Henri, and then he tells his dad that, and that's a really good human moment. But then that's like in the face of like he has 3 more years of this, and he's chosen to stay in the front lines. And it's the human.
It is definitely like
there's a very human option for him to be like, you know what, Dad, I think I'm gonna take you up on that artillery school thing. So
yeah. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get away from the active shooting. I want to get away from that.
I mean, that's a tough situation. You don't want to leave your men, especially as a leader. But then your son, it's like, I mean, there's good drama there, and that doesn't need to be told in this story, but there's good drama there.
There's also there's interesting, like, I think this movie is really good again because so often we see like, oh, we're taking over this town and stuff, and I guess it never really like came into like perspective for me. Maybe until this movie, but maybe not. I don't know. But like the idea of, hey, we're occupying your town, and so like we want to be respectful and like not a huge asshole to you, but your house is ours. Just gonna let you know, like your house, it's ours. It's our house. You can stay here. We're not gonna kick you out. But also you're not gonna. It's ours, and you essentially are relegated to where we say you can go. Okay? Like when they do the whole singing thing.
Yeah.
And Diane Kruger goes and like she's like, hey, you guys know where Nicholas Sprink is? And they're like, and then it also like showcases the interconnectedness of the place where they're like, oh, the tenor? Oh my God, he's so fucking good. And then and I'm just doing the scene now, but yeah. But it's just so, it's like, and then them listening later as he's singing, and they're at a distance in their own home listening to something I'm sure that they would like to hear in person, but it's like, I can't believe that Nicholas Sprink, the great tenor, is in our house. And it's like, wow. But then also
the ludicrousy of them fighting each other.
Yeah.
You have the German leader. I can't even the actor's name. He's really famous.
Daniel Brühl.
Yeah, Daniel Brühl. He's that character's wife is French, and he loves going to France.
Oh, and he's a Jew. And I remember thinking that, like, as they slowly reveal that, because he's one of my favorite characters too.
Yeah,
I would say I was going to just talk about him later, just because I love him.
Like, as for me, because you can watch it and you know these things because you've watched it so many times. But me rewatching it, I don't know these little reveals, and it's like, this dude's so fucking all over the place. I don't get it, and it reveals very well, and it's like, oh my god, he's got a French wife. That's why he's like a hard ass. But then he's like, why is he being so lenient and helpful to the French?
Yeah.
But it all explains itself, and it's nice.
Yeah. And it's just so funny. He's like, I'm a Jew, so I don't really care about like Christmas, but like,
it means nothing
I think
to me.
People deserve.
That's what he says.
It means nothing to me, but it does. I do feel like people deserve the chance to be like happy or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just such a fun thing because we set him up and we have this idea of the German asshole, like especially the commander. We have this idea of it where we're like, this is fucking German asshole. And he's like, I am that. Yeah, I'm a German asshole. I'm going to make sure that things are right. And I'm going to be kind of like a hard ass to people. And this guy, he's like, you fucking sing? Great. I don't care. Get out of here. And, and then it's like, he's like, oh my gosh. Like, he sort of gets like browbeat into every sort of decision. But then also is like, no, this is my decision. I'm just like, this is it.
Yeah, and eventually he starts owning them. At least that we're not owning them, but he starts having them. They're his ideas. He has the agency in initiating these things, such as like switching trenches during the.
He's like, hey, we're gonna show
showing.
you guys. So
come over here and party. And then
Yeah, let's I don't know. Let's stare at each other, and not be sure how to deal with this.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's there's so many good
But I love-
dynamics there. I
But
think
I just love the reveal of him being like, yeah, like he's like, it's first he's a Jew and he doesn't care about Christmas, and then he's like, my wife is French, and then the rapport that he has with the French is where, and then the French guy's like, you don't have to invade Paris to have coffee, bud. Like we could be friends and have coffee without you taking it over. You don't
Yeah.
have to win for us to be friends.
that was a good moment.
I like that moment.
I think the idea like of the Germans, the Huns as they were called, and the reputation they got like for war crimes and stuff. Not every German soldier or unit, were war criminals or ruthless, but I think it would have been a nice little way to pose it. Is some is that there's some
What?
I got a phone call saying from my energy company.
Get out of here.
There'd be some kind of, so the Germans have a reputation, and they very briefly touch on it, but I think it would just make that they're human kind of reveal a little bit better if we get more of that. The Hun, the baby killer. I don't know, just like them perpetuating those myths of each other, just a little bit, because there isn't actually any of that on either side. Like there's no and maybe because it was made by French, but there's no French cliches like you like wine and naps or something. I don't know what the things were at the time, but
Yeah.
to have that revelation, we're just like each other, can hit a little bit harder if we stick to these stereotypes that we perpetuate of each other, and especially as we're fighting each other and fucking hate you because you killed my brother, shit like that. And then I'm not talking about the Scottish brother, just anyone, and any of them have lost someone they care about because the enemy, a German or the French or whatever the dynamic, killed them, and I think that's
also
that's
sort
an
of
opportunity
confusing.
there. What?
Is how little the French and the Scottish communicate, despite being sort of on the same side.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Scots feel disconnected. They're integrated, especially with the pastor, and the Scottish leader is pretty decently. I don't know. I guess he should have gotten more time and development than the brother, the one with the dead brother.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I think the dynamic's good. He's a good ancillary character.
Mm-hmm.
He's fun enough, but also doesn't take too much attention, but also is not minimized. I don't know. But it just in terms of warfare, it's communicate, guys. You're on the same team. Okay? Talk to each other.
Yeah.
Come on.
Or at least there's a good moment to storytell there with more disconnect from the people on up, to the people on the ground.
Or the people on the same sides.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And so how that doesn't, that certification doesn't allow the fraternization of the same side, I guess. I don't know how to word that. But
I hear you. Build.
Also, there's a little plug in here, but apparently a lot of the guys in this German unit are Bayern Munich soccer players. And so they crush them in the soccer game, which is, I don't know. That was interesting.
They're they came clean eventually.
Yeah.
It's we're on Bayern Munich.
That's pretty crazy.
We're fucking good, dude. I don't know. I like this movie a lot. It's a weird tradition that we have, but I like it. Because it is I don't know. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's a sad movie. But it hits all for me, it hits the Christmas things where it's hey, fucking shit sucks, dude, but find a good in it.
Yeah.
Come on, guy.
I agree.
Come on.
I think as I touched on earlier, how watching movies, when I watched this when I was in high school, I was okay, it's a fun dynamic, but I want to see some battles. because World War One battle
Yeah.
on screen wasn't well represented, or as well or as much. And I watched the movie. I got bored as a dumb high school kid, but this was a fun one because I was able to watch this refreshed, and it has the things that I care about more as the human response in these crazy situations. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it really hit on all those marks. And fun fact, as I throw that back, I saw this. This is one of the first movies I saw streaming on Netflix when they first started offering that. So, today it's such an afterthought of how you would watch things. Because it made me go back, because I had a TV with a DVD player in it. And it's like, whenever I wanted to watch something, I had to go find it and have it, or have it and find it, either one, or buy it and then get it in the mail 2 days later and put it in, close the DVD tray, let it spin up, get through all the trailers and stuff, get to the main menu, if it lets me, and then select play. And it really is not that much work, but it's just like, oh my God, you really like so many steps are cut out now, or like then there wasn't even that many steps. That was super attainable and pretty quick, but now it's like, you just find it, you put it on. And this was one of the first movies, and Netflix's selection then wasn't that good. And so
I'm trying to think what the first, and now, like, how did that start? Like, how did that start? Because now it's like
at first on Netflix streaming, and not that
it's
it was like B movies and foreign movies, like stuff that didn't have major publishers or distributors. And so it was.
They had a
like
weird
that.
selection.
Yeah, and it was always really bad quality, or the internet at the time, speeds at the time weren't enough to keep up with it. It was a really weird experience. And this was like, we're talking like 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, and it, like as if like, but that is it's like over a decade ago, and it's like crazy.
Well,
when you look
back, what was the transition?
You see the technological changes. It's interesting.
What was the transition? When did it become an app? Like, when could you do it on the TV? Like, because I remember in college, I'm pretty sure I watched Lost.
I think it was
on Netflix.
I think Xboxes and like consoles pushed that. And then probably the advent of like Roku boxes and stuff like that started doing it. But I think consoles had a big push.
And now smart TV, and then smart TVs are essentially like the first step. Okay.
Yeah, smart TVs and iPads and what have you.
I was thinking about that, like, and this is completely like off topic, but I was thinking about, because I was talking to my dad about how freaking bars have TVs in them. And he was like, yeah, that was a big fucking deal whenever bars first put TVs in. And then, like, thinking back further, I was like, we take ESPN for granted. It's a sports network. And it's like, look, it's a sports network. Fucking of course. But then, like, the different channels, like the slow advent of different channels, as it's like you have 3 channels in the mid 80s. You have NBC, ABC, and CBS, maybe. I don't know. But it's just like how do you then, like, what is the process of like starting a new channel? I was just thinking about, like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna start a channel. We're gonna start a TV channel. And how do we get it out there? And you gotta sell it like everything else. But now it's like, yeah, okay, sure. Everybody can start. Not that anybody could start a channel, but like, there's probably a world where, I don't know. I was just like, holy shit, having a new channel back in the day must have been crazy.
Be lit,
bro. Get the bar and the TV. Get the TV in the bar. Have a new channel. What the? Let's go, dude. Anyway,
on the background, I have the scene where they first start their connection with the music, and I love how Sprink gets up and he's like very exposed singing, and everyone's entranced. And is it Daniel Bruhl?
Yeah,
he comes up. He's like, you can see the anxious like antsy. He's like, come on, get down, fucking get down. Like, he starts yelling at him. He just doesn't. The anxiety.
I don't want you to get shot.
The anxiety there is so good. And then you have the Scots who initiate the party. They're just like, cut to the Scots like, hey guys, just chilling, like,
hey, we're out here. Let's
arms
get out,
resting
bro.
on their knees, like, hey,
yeah. And then And then you have the one like French guy in the one of the foxholes who's just like, and they're like, "Hey, Merry Christmas," and he's like, oh, "Hey, hey guys, I wasn't doing anything, okay."
Scots love their bagpipes. Those are weird. Those are weird instruments.
I've been playing around with, and it's funny because, I've been playing around with Ableton, playing around with different like vocal stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I just make bagpipes? You know, but essentially doing so many weird different vocal layers. So like creating my own vocoder type sound. But I'm like, wait a second, is this just bagpipes? Because it sort of is. It's like where it's like multi-toned, and then there's sort of like a drone with it, and it's like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that built into me? I'm not Scottish. I'm like supposedly Irish.
It's in your
supposedly
blood.
Irish, French, Spanish. I don't know.
Yeah. I think a quick note too, as I'm watching this, another con is I wish there was more cadaver fake bodies on No Man's Land.
John's just like, hey, give me that realism. Fuck this Christmas shit.
It's not even the realism. It's just like if you're trying to sell me on the fact that they've been like slugging at each other, killing each other.
Yeah.
Like to me, this gives me the vibe that they've only had one engagement, the one we saw on screen, you know, and
yeah.
And so, because
Well,
I'm watching this, and it's very sparse, minus like a dozen bodies. You know, there's a disc. It's obviously it's a thing on the screen. It's for us to enjoy. It does the job, but
I don't know. Here, let me sell it for you. I'm gonna sell it to you, okay? Previously, the Germans had just been pushed back. This movement was for them to move up, and so this is essentially a fresh engagement of this area. This isn't a set stalwarted area. Whatever. It's not like a set area that they've been fighting over. They keep trading, and so they have opportunities to clear the ground, so it is sort of fresh.
Yeah.
Does that sell it on you? Or you still hate it? And that's fine.
I mean, there's a lot of wrinkles to explain it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm
pointing it as I see it, I guess.
Also, I just want to say that I love watching and this goes in this movie, this all the time. I love seeing like lieutenants or the captains or commanders of armies get together and be like, "Hey, let's chill out for a second." And then like the sort of like the respect where it's like, "You really like you got me there," you know? Hey, neither of us died, but you got a lot of my guys in that moment. Like, I did not think you were gonna go that direction with the thing.
Yeah.
And you got me. I'm gonna get you, but this is fun. Like, and again, I understand that they're like playing with human life and stuff like that, and like the weight of that. But I do love like the man.
It's the same dynamic of us loving to see villains becoming our heroes, or like, or a villain helping the hero for a moment. Like there's like something there with that, like moment of collaboration, and maybe that comes from a natural human sense of hope, or of togetherness or collaboration. I don't know,
or like carrying on. I don't know.
Yeah,
because it is like that's like something that I love, especially in this movie, but in a lot of them, where it's just like I just love it. Like when we watched The Patriot, I was like, I love them coming together and being like, we are not on the same side, but damn it, if we do not vibe, you know, like we don't vibe, but also like I like what you're doing and I hate it at the same time. Like I wouldn't hey, you know, I might not have stolen those caravans that way, but I think the idea is really interesting. Like, hey, I never would have thought of that. That's a really cool, interesting idea, and I hate you for it. But
I love it. Yeah. Well, as we, what do you give this movie? I'm curious where it falls.
I'm gonna give it 3 alarm clocks. man, I don't know. 3 alarm clocks. I think as a Christmas movie, it's a 4 alarm clocks out of 5. I think as just a movie, it's probably 3 alarm clocks out of 5. Just because, like, it does feel really light. And maybe for me, it's just, like, not as punchy and big as it could be that would make it. It's either not as punchy.
Well, that's what
it's
I've
not as punchy.
more or less have been trying to say. I guess you just said it more succinctly.
Yeah. But I think as a Christmas movie, it is like the best version of what it could be for like a Christmas hope movie. But I think for like a regular movie about these characters and stuff like that, it's like, I don't know, just a little bit less. Just a little bit less.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about you, bud?
I gave it 3.5 bottles of wine. Of a Frenchman handing it to a German.
Yeah, baby.
I pretty much explained why I feel that way. In terms of movies I've watched, I watched this, but I did watch Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Ooh.
And it was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite Wes Anderson movie I've seen. But it had a lot of elements I liked. It looked good. I think like the Wes Anderson pretension shown a little much too much through Bill Murray's performance actually. But I still liked it. It was fun to look at.
It's funny. I watched that movie for the first time around this time last year too.
I know. I saw your review on Letterboxd, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I realized you shortly thereafter stopped using it.
I did. I apologize. I apologize to our Letterboxd sponsors that aren't sponsoring us. It's just sometimes it's too much. Maybe I'll try it again in the new year. We'll see. It's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah. You don't have to leave reviews. I just use it as a log so I know what I watched, and it's a little journal. It's like I'm collecting movies, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah. No, that movie. It's funny because like you can definitely tell that movie. And like seeing the effect of it afterwards is like Life Aquatic. It's like, yeah, this is. I know this. I understand why this like affected people so much, and so many people made it their sort of like personality. But also, I don't think it's his best one.
No. What have you seen?
I have seen Red Notice. I watched Red Notice. I finished Matrix Resurrections.
Nice.
And I think that's about it from the last time. I've been watching some movies, but the only new one is Red Notice.
Yeah. Well, Matrix is new. Oh,
Which
since
was,
last talked about it. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and then yeah, maybe. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Red Notice. It was I don't know if it was fine. That's it. That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out and listening to this iteration of Stinky Popcorn Boys, episode 86 or 87, somewhere around there. Thank you all for hanging out.
Somewhere in there.
Hope you enjoyed our natural foray into history and our unqualified discussions of national history of countries we don't know anything about, really.
Look at you. That's a good way to put that through.
But thank you guys. You know where to find us. Rate and review.
We appreciate you.
And what do they say in France?
As they say in France. Bon voyage, my stinky friends. I love you so much. Give me that good liverwurst.